Well, welcome back to Donington. If you were watching earlier on today, you'll have seen some great action from the Ginetta Junior Championship, powered by Sunoco Race Fuels. This is our third and final race of the weekend coming up for you, and this grid is going to be based on their finishing positions from the race earlier on today, race number 2 that is, which sees 2 times race winner Louis Goff line up on pole position. Could he make it to third? We've had some changeable weather this afternoon. It was dry this morning. We had a real cloudburst over lunch which wet the track. It's now dried up again, but you can see in the distance the rain's coming back in, and the 24km/h winds are going to bring it in quite quickly. So it is a dry line out there, but it could all change rather as they head off on their formation lap in advance of what is now scheduled to be an 18-minute race for these cars. We can guide you through the grid then and the way that they line up. And are we going to see Louis Goff claim his third win of the day? Well, he starts from pole, and alongside is Harry Bartle. It is Harrison Mackie who's there on row number 2, and here's got Riley Cranham for company. On to row number 3, that's where we see Jesse Phillips, and for company there is Melvin Kalustian, and it's Max Murray and Daniel Oliver that line up on row number 4. The 5th row of the grid sees Jacob Ashcroft and Sebastian Leiss, and it's Henry Cameron and Kai Visch that are there on row number 6. The 7th row of the grid is Addison Smith alongside Josh Watts, and then it's Jorn Helder and Andrew Robinson that are next up on row number 8. The 9th row of the grid, it's Pierce Wade, and Pierce Wade has got Vicky Farfus sitting alongside. Then it's Ethan Brass and Henry Carter that are there on row number 10. The 11th row of the grid, that's where we see Anicio Mafolo, and alongside him is going to be Oscar Stocky King. Next up is going to be Dominic Darling, and Dominic Darling will have company Bailey Doughty. And then the final few rows of the grid, when we get to them, it will see Noah Young line up alongside Devon Halgeland, then followed by Vladislav Tomanchek, and off the back of the grid is Samuel Del Gaudio. So that's the way that the 28 cars line up for round 3 of the 2026 Ginetta Junior Championship, powered by Sunoco Fuels. This championship now in its 21st year, and introduced into the championship, what was it, about 3 years ago now, was it, the Evo version of the Ginetta Junior cars, which have stabilised the regulations for the next few years as well. I think we've got another 2 or 3 years of stabilised regulations before any changes are likely to happen. And you can see, because teams know the regulations aren't going to change, it means that they can invest in these cars and know full well that the car they have this year is going to be the same car they race next year. Nothing is likely to change in the regulations. That stability has really aided the cause and seen such strong grids and really good racing in Ginetta Juniors. So they have sampled the dry Donington Park circuit. The racing line is largely dry, but if you go offline, you're then onto the damp parts. And of course, when you're running 2 and 3 abreast, which juniors do, it'll be interesting to see as to how these young drivers, all aged between 14 and 17 years of age, cope with this. So it is, say, a slightly shortened race, an 18-minute race. Are they going to get 2 formation laps? Is it deemed as being a wet track? Yes, it is. So understandably so, because it is tricky conditions out there, just to give the drivers a bit more time to acclimatise to these damp conditions. We've reduced the race time from 20 minutes to 18, and the reason that's reduced is because we're going to give them an extra formation lap at not racing speed behind the safety car, just to understand where those few little bits of water are, where the dry parts are, where the wet parts are. And also the drivers will be looking up to the skies as well, because those rain clouds don't appear to be too far away. And with the gusts of winds that we've had present all weekend here really at Donington Park, even down into Friday, I'm not sure what Thursday was like because I wasn't here, but it's been breezy all weekend really. So the Hyundai safety car bringing them round. Louis Goff, twice a race winner so far this weekend, sitting on pole. Harry Bartle, twice a runner-up, sitting alongside. Harrison Mackie on row number 2 had a disappointing first race, was running well, but a couple of problems down at the old hairpin, dropped into 19th in the first race. He corrected that by finishing 3rd in the second race, which is why he lines up 3rd on this grid. And then alongside him on that row of the grid is Riley Cranham. He was 10th in the first race, finished 4th in the second. 3rd row of the grid, Jesse Phillips has had a good weekend as well. 3rd in the first race, 5th in the second, so that's good consistent scoring from him. And the car that starts in 6th has had 2 6th places so far this weekend. That's a Red Bull car of Melvin Kalustian, the number 5 car. Max Murray has had a 4th and a 7th. He starts 7th in this one. Daniel Oliver has had a 5th and an 8th, so he starts 8th. 9th place, it's been an 8th and a 9th for Jacob Ashcroft. And in 10th place, it's a 9th and a 10th for Sebastian Leisch. So a few of the drivers have had good, consistent races so far. And the only one that sort of stands out as having one poor race and one better race in there is poor old Harrison Mackie, who had those problems in race number 1. So the cars just working their way in towards the Fogarty S's, and then we can get this slightly reduced 18-minute race underway. And we'll see as to whether the likes of Noah Young, who non-finished in the race earlier on, what he might be able to do to carve his way through the order. The likes of Devon Hagelen was a non-finisher earlier. Vladislav Tomanchek was a non-finisher. Bailey Doughty was a non-finisher. How far up the order can those cars get? Because it is based on finishing positions from race 2. You non-finish race 2, you start race 3 at the back. So they'll be looking to try and make a little bit of progress. And I'd have thought probably Noah Young and Vladislav Tomanchek might be ones to watch out for, but that's not to rule out Devon Hagelen at the wheel of his Elite Motorsport car either. Or let's see how far Bailey Doughty can get as well. So they're just coming around, ready to line up on the grid. Our fantastic Donington Park marshals, who have taken off the waterproofs at the moment. Might need to put them back on again in the next 18 minutes or so. Holding the flags firmly. They've had a busy old weekend, a couple of long days for our marshals at Donington Park with all the other support races that we've got here this weekend. There's still a few more races coming up after this one as well that are not televised for you, so they've still got to hang around for another hour or so yet before they'll be able to head home. And the front row of the grid is fully in position, so the black car with the purple flashes of Lewis Goff sitting there on pole position. The white car with the green and the lighter green sitting alongside is going to be Harry Bartle. The green flag waves at the tail end of the field. We're going to see the red lights come on the right-hand side of your screens, which they'll be doing any second now. They do, and as they go out now on the damper track, who gets the better start? Harry Bartle was maybe a little bit slower away than the pole sitter. Is it going to put him under pressure as they head down towards Redgate Corner, however, for the first time? And as they get down towards Redgate, Harry Bartle is there in second place, but trying to sneak his way through and up the inside goes Harrison Mackie, and is he going to be able to make it stick? I think he has. We've got somebody rally crossing on the way out of the corner. They've just gathered up the moment and will drop further down through the order, but I think Harrison Mackie maybe just had his nose ahead, did he? He's still trying to slug it out with Harry Bartle. He's got the inside line as they head down in towards the old hairpin, and Harrison Mackie is up into second place. Harry Bartle is down into third. We've got one car all over the grass coming through the old hairpin, and it rejoins, thankfully, without having contact with any other car, and that was Josh Watts that took the ride through the grass down there. But he has been able to rejoin and actually make a grand job of trying to find a gap to thread the car into with the pack of cars coming through, but that's dropped him a long, long way down through the order, has Josh Watts. The race leaders in the meantime will be just making their way out of Coppice Corner and down the straight for the first time. Lewis Goff already with a bit of daylight between himself and Harrison Mackie, who's there in second place. Harry Bartle third. Melvin Kalustian is having a really good first lap as well, because he started sixth. He's up into something like fourth place. So the Red Bull backed car with 2 6th places so far this weekend, up into fourth in the early stages of this one, or fifth in the early stages of this one. But he does need to be careful with track limits, because I think in a couple of the races he's either been forewarned or has picked up a time penalty for going beyond the track limits. Elbows being stuck out there by Daniel Oliver to try and prevent the car squeezing its way through on the exit of the Melbourne hairpin. So Daniel Oliver's going to be something like 8th, maybe 9th position at the end of the first lap of this race. He started 8th, so he's largely, I think, held his own ground on this first lap, as over the start-finish line they'll come. 7/10 of a second is the lead advantage. There's lots of arm twirling and wiggling in the background as somebody looks to gather up the moment heading over the start-finish line. And I think that was Bailey Doughty, who's looking to try and make progress from the tail end of the order, that had the problem. Big gainer on that one was Bailey Doughty, who gained 6 places, even with the moment on the exit of Goddard's that time through. Front runners down in towards the old hairpin. Goff from Mackie, Bartle from Phillips, then it's Kalustian from Cranham, the top 6 at this stage, as they start to propel themselves back uphill once more, side by side down through the old hairpin. That's Jorn Gelder busy beavering away with Andrew Robinson. Jorn Gelder in the black car with the gold flashes, who was going well in the first race. He was on for probably finished just outside of the top 10, something like 10th, 11th position before he had a spin. And he is involved in a great battle at the moment, which includes Josh Watts, who had that grassy moment on the first lap down through the old hairpin. His black and orange car is sitting right in that queue, and that huge train of cars now just all feeding their way round through the right-hander at Coppice. It also includes the black and pink Performance 1 machine of Noah Young, who runs a little bit wide coming out of Coppice there and pops 2 wheels onto the grass. He's another driver looking to try and make progress as a result of his retirement in the race earlier on today. Side by side through the Fogarty S's, something's got to give, and it's Andrew Robinson that has to shortcut across the gravel trap, and that is going to allow surely Josh Watts to try and draw himself alongside, if not ahead, and Josh Watts will make it through. Also trying to go through is Vicky Farfus, who's trying the outside line down at the Melbourne hairpin, where further down through the order they're certainly 2 wide, possibly even 3 wide by the look of things. Typical Ginetta Junior action, and they are all driving superbly well at this stage. I don't think we've seen any sort of car-to-car contact, even light, at this stage. So tricky conditions when you've got the dry line and then you've got the wetter line, and you're trying to still work out where the grip is around the circuit. Despite their formative years, they're all going well. Harry Bartle has dropped down now also from 3rd down into 4th place, and that is because he has been picked off by Jesse Phelps. So the grey car with the pink flashes, Jesse Phelps is now up into 3rd, Harry Bartle down into 4th, but instantly under pressure as well from Melvin Kalustian, who's looking for the inside line going down in towards the old hairpin. He goes quick on the entrance, but then entrance runs wide on the exit. Harry Bartle looking to try and carve his way through, but he can't do anything about it because he's got a car to driver's right that he is trying to avoid making any contact with, and I think that's the number 18 car, is it not, which is going to be Riley Cranham. So Riley Cranham looking to see if he can go through. No, all of a sudden he realises he's got Daniel Oliver trying to attack him. Then Max Murray comes through as well. So they're all 2-3 wide heading up towards Coppice Corner. There's a little bit of contact there and a run through the gravel trap for Max Murray as a result of that. He should keep his foot down and be able to rejoin, but that's going to drop the number 17 car right the way down through the order. 4th in the first race, 7th in the second. It's going to be a lower finish in the 3rd race of the day for Max Murray with that moment through the gravel trap. Race continues for the moment. We have a very unusual scenario in that we have 2 cars on the first flying lap that have set exactly the same lap time. The fastest lap of the race, a 1:54.925 from the car of Jesse Phelps, a 1:54.219 for Melvin Kalustian, but because Jesse Phelps was 4th and Kalustian was 5th, Jesse Phelps is the fastest lap of the race in reality. I think the points would get shared, we'll have to look into that, but odds are the track will dry a bit more, the laps will get quicker anyway, so it will all become largely irrelevant. 12 minutes to go still. Lewis Goff has led every lap of every race so far this weekend, and he still continues to lead here. He has opened up almost a second advantage now between himself and the car that's there in 2nd place, which is Harrison Mackie, who is going to be on course for his best result of the day if he can hang on to it. He was 3rd in the race earlier on today, and he has about 1.2 seconds between himself and Jesse Phelps, so he's got a bit of an advantage, and 1.2 seconds is almost allowing the car behind Jesse Phelps to not pick up the tow and the slipstream from the car ahead. So that puts Harrison Mackie in a strong position if that's the case. Side by side further back, that is Vicky Farfus, who is busy fighting away with Vladislav Tomancek, and Vicky Farfus loses the tail end of the car heading round through the old hairpin. Just ran out wide onto the marbles and tried to get the car moving of her own accord, but I'm afraid that car is now bogged down into the gravel, so that could well be a requirement for a safety car with how close that car is to the very edge of the circuit. The leaders are now on lap number 4 at this stage, and Melvin Kalustian still under pressure from Harry Bartle, who looks one way. Kalustian covers him off, so Harry Bartle decides to go the other. He's still going to have to sit behind now as they go through the Fogarty S's, but a good exit coming out could offer up at least a glimmer of hope as they head down in towards the braking area for Melbourne. Is he close enough to try anything? No, he's going to sit behind on this occasion. So it's still Kalustian in 4th, Bartle in 5th, and I think they're going to have to just press the pause button on their squabble for the moment, because the safety car is coming out because of the stricken car of Vicky Farfus, as I expected, deemed to be in an unsafe position down there. Can't get the marshals out to it, and therefore it's going to have to be dragged back through the gravel trap. Maybe a few marshals might go out and try and give it a shove to get it out of harm's way, but if not, the telehandler is on standby to go out and deal with the incident. So the safety car called into action, everybody bunches up behind, and then once the incident is cleared, we'll get things back underway once more. But the blue sky that was overhead not 10 minutes ago has now been all replaced by cloud again, and some of those clouds do look quite dark coming over now. What they quite look like in the distance where the weather is blowing in from, I'm not sure, because the lighting has been that you can really see the clouds in the distance, and the rain is coming down, but from that shot can't quite see, because of course the sun is setting now in that direction, or is beginning to start to come down. So safety car heading down towards the old hairpin. We'll see what's going on with the recovery of the car of Vicky Farfus, which has brought about this safety car period. It is not going to be pushed out by the marshals. It is going to be dragged further back into the gravel trap, and the telehandler would usually drag that car backwards towards the tyre wall and then drag it further along the tyre wall towards Starkey's Bridge, and either deposit it on the grass there or move it totally out of harm's way. So probably going to have another lap or two behind the safety car. There is a snatch gap as well, though. If it keeps reversing that way, then it's probably going to end up in one of the gaps down near where the marshal's post is, down at the old hairpin, and I think that's what they're opting to do, because that will be the quicker route to get the car out of harm's way. Marshal on hand to direct Vicky as to which direction to put the steering wheel as well, just to make sure that we can get that car totally out of harm's way. There's one car there that has got a very brown windscreen, so it's clearly following somebody when they had an off. There's a few cars that are sort of brown a bit across the front, but there's one, there it is, the number 17 car that has got a very, very dirty windscreen. Max Murray has clearly been behind somebody that's had an off, because he's had to put the windscreen wiper on, and you see a beautiful clear bit of windscreen, but lots of brown around the edges, and lots of brown to the front of the car as well. I think there's another car that looked quite brown at the front, and I think that was Noah Young's car. So there is Vicky Farfus. She is... well, that car is going to be moved out of harm's way, which means that we should be good to go back racing potentially at the end of this lap. No confirmation of that as yet, but safety car is in the right position on track to extinguish its lights if it is able to do so. But of course radio communication needs to take place between down at the old hairpin to race control, and then race control to the safety car. But it looks as though with the safety car down at now the Melbourne hairpin and lights are still on, we're probably not going to quite be able to go racing at the end of this lap. So 7.5 minutes to go. One further lap behind the safety car is going to take probably another 2.5 minutes. So we should be down to something like 5 minutes of racing if we get things underway. I could just see a few spits of rain on the camera there on the one up towards Goddard's, which suggests that those grey clouds I was talking about might be starting to bring in a little bit more rain again. Yeah, windscreen wipers coming on the safety car, so the rain is beginning to fall out there now, and looking out of the commentary box windows, yes, I can see spits of rain starting to fall. So this is going to again just affect the amount of grip that's available out on circuit. The drivers will need to bear in mind the fact that you can't press the throttle in the same places as you were doing. Equally as much, your braking points become different because there's less grip out there, so you have to brake that a little bit earlier on the damp surface. And you can see, yeah, just visually the lux level has dropped. Windscreen wipers on the safety car, windscreen wipers coming on the race leading car of Lewis Goff as well. So conditions are closing in, and Lewis Goff will be the first of those to explore these new conditions, because of course when we get racing back underway, they'll be under damper conditions at full racing speed for the first time, and you've got to work it out for yourself. You've got to try and gauge where the grip is, where the grip isn't, where are any more damp patches coming in. Is it just a few spits of rain and it will soon dry up? Is it going to start to get worse? I can't tell from our commentary position, but the drivers will be looking out of their windscreens and side windows at the moment just to see, you know, what's the likelihood of it getting worse, what's the likelihood of it getting better, and then try and gauge it from there. It's going to be a bit of a 5-minute sprint, this one as well, by the time we get things back underway. And when we do get things back underway, the safety car will peel its way into the pit lane, and there'll be no overtaking again until they reach the start-finish line, the control line. So safety car lights still on. Somewhere down through the Fogarty S's they will get extinguished at this stage, and then safety car will accelerate away from the pack, and Lewis Goff will decide as to when he wants to get the restart underway at this stage. So out of the Fogarty S's, lights are off on the safety car. That starts to pull away from the pack, so Lewis Goff now will control the speed, and he'll decide as to when he wants to go. Earlier on today, on one of the restarts, it was just after the Melbourne hairpin where he put his foot down and got going. Where is he going to go this time? Again, he's at a bit of a snail's pace. All the cars behind getting as close as they can. And Lewis Goff is taking a really wide sweep into Melbourne, which means he's going to go on the exit. I'm sure he'll straighten up the exit and get his foot down. And there we go. That's exactly what he has done. Straightened up the exit, got his foot down and got a really good restart from everybody behind. They can't overtake, though, at Goddard. So there's no overtaking allowed at Goddard. Only over the start-finish line on what are conditions that are deteriorating now as Harry Bartle takes a wide sweep in towards Goddard, almost runs out of room. And is that going to allow Jacob Ashcroft to overtake him before the line? Jacob's got to get back off the throttle to prevent that happening, which I think he had to do there. So a good restart from our race leader, Lewis Goff, leading the way. And now that the conditions have deteriorated, those two fastest lap times might stay as joint fastest laps for the race, which is very unusual when you time to the nearest thousandth of a second. There aren't many race meetings I've done in 27 years where two cars identically share the fastest lap of the race, and that could be happening here. Down through the Craner curves. Look at the different line that Lewis Goff took through the Craner curves there. Knows full well that the less polished surface, the usual racing line, is not the way to go. And there's a big squirrely moment for Harrison Mackie, who just gathered up the moment going down through the old hairpin. But that did slow his progress, and I'm afraid that has now dropped him down into 5th position, I'm afraid. So Jesse Phillips moves up into 2nd position. Melvin Kalustian is up into 3rd. Harry Bartle moves up into 4th. And Harrison Mackie drops down into 5th. Just that small slide where he was not quite sure what the grip level was, and the car wasn't underneath him enough going in towards the old hairpin. By the time he'd gathered it up in a competitive formula, it's not one place you lose, it's half a dozen nearly. Noah Young there fighting his way through the order. Now that number 95 car, the black and pink car, non-finished in the race earlier on. Noah Young is now up into 15th position in the 28 car field. So that has been good progress made by him, and it's not done yet because he's got Jorn Helder now that he's trying to carve his way through and past. Is he able to do so? Yeah, another place gained through the Fogarty S's for Noah Young. I did say watch out for him. And are we going to have a change elsewhere through the order as Harry Bartle tries to get himself back inside the top 4? No, he couldn't quite manage it there. Everybody treading carefully down through the Melbourne hairpin. Noah Young, who I thought had gained the place over Jorn Helder, had lost it again. He regains it again, though, on the climb out of the Melbourne hairpin and up towards the braking area for Goddard. And now, in the ever-worsening conditions, he's having a go at trying to squeeze his way through and past the next of the cars, which is going to be the number 15 car, which is Addison Smith. Addison Smith equally as much is fighting away to try and gain places, and I think he was able to squeeze his way through and past Josh Watts on that occasion. Josh Watts trying to fight back on the run in towards Redgate Corner. There's a little touch between the pair. There's another second touch between the pair. They head side by side through the corner, 3 wide briefly through Redgate Corner, and they all come out pointing in the right direction as well. The track now much wetter. You can see the spray starting to come up. Our camera's struggling with the conditions, and side by side through the Craner curves in these conditions is brave stuff as well. Josh Watts hanging on to the place, just about finally getting the job done over Addison Smith, but then runs wide heading around through the old hairpin, and all of that hard work is undone because he loses 3 places. Melvin Kalustian will be hoping that he can hang on to his final podium spot at this stage as he sits there in the Red Bull car in what is 3rd position. Ideally, though, if he can close up a bit more onto the coattails of the car ahead, he'd be very pleased with that. And off for Ethan Brass. That's down at the old hairpin. He will get going again. So the cars that are sharing the fastest lap are the cars in 2nd and 3rd places as things stand. Jesse Phillips is now, for the first time, starting to mount a challenge for the lead of the race. He's eroded the lead advantage that Lewis Goff had. It was about a second at the start of the lap, but he was half a second quicker through the middle sector, and that's why the lead advantage has come down quite substantially between the pair of them. It's an R Racing 1-2 at this stage. The car in third place might be a different livery, but it's still prepared by R Racing, who are at the moment on for a podium lockout at this stage, unless Harry Bartle can do anything about it. And they're about to start their last lap of the race. Lewis Goff has been in fine form so far today, has led every lap of all 3 Ginetta Junior races, But on this third race of the day, is he going to lead the most important one? He continues to lead as they come over the start-finish line to start the last lap of the race, but Jesse Phillips is absolutely with him. He's looking to see if there's an opportunity at Redgate Corner. Nothing's going to present itself there because he's just too far away, I'm afraid. So slither your way on these greasy conditions out of Redgate Corner. Grabs the curb on the way out. The car just sort of wiggled in second place, and that might just have lost him half a tenth or so as again they go down through the Craner curves. Look at the much wider line they're taking down through the Craner curves to stay off the rubbered tarmac, the more polished surface. Again, the wide line down through the old hairpin. The lead advantage through the first sector of this lap has gone out by about 0.1 of a second, but not much more than that. They start to climb uphill towards where the real rain shower is at the moment, up at McLean's Corner. Lewis Goff still leading the way. Jesse Phillips desperate to see if there's an opportunity to try and carve his way through. Melvin Kalustian there in third place, Harry Bartle in fourth, Harrison Mackie is there in fifth place, but the battle for the lead is on between the two R-Racing teammates. Could it be three for Lewis Goff? Might it be a win for Jesse Phillips? The rain is lashing down as they come out of Coppice Corner and work their way down the straight. Jesse Phillips looking to see whether he can take the outside line in towards the Fogarty S's to draw himself alongside. Surely he's going to tuck back behind and concentrate on the exit. Yes, he does. There's almost a touch between the pair of them. They're almost bump drafting each other as they come out of the corner, but it's still Lewis Goff that leads the way as they start to crest the rise before they then descend downhill into the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin. Looks as though there was a brief locked brake there from Lewis Goff, the race leader. A nice wide line taken by Jesse Phillips going into the Melbourne hairpin to try and get good momentum on the way out, and they are still matching each other for pace as they head up towards Goddard's for the final time. Is there another twist in the tail here, or is Lewis Goff going to make it a clean sweep of all the races? No, he runs a little bit wide, and sneaking through and up the inside goes Jesse Phillips, and it's going to be a dash to the line as to who's going to claim the win, but it's just going to be coming out of the corner, getting his nose ahead, Lewis Goff, that comes through to make it 3 out of 3 this weekend in the Ginetta Junior Championship, powered by Sunoco Fuels. Jesse Phillips tried everything, threw everything at it, even at the final corner, but came up short, finishing in second place. But that's still his best result of the weekend so far, and it's a first podium for Melvin Kalustian this weekend, who's had a couple of sixth places but finishes off the weekend with a solid third position. Harrison Mackie comes through to finish in fourth place. Fifth place will be the car of Jacob Ashcroft, and completing the top six, it's going to be the number 18 car that comes through to finish in sixth position, which is Riley Cranham. So that race was really intriguing. We had the safety car, we had damp conditions at the start, they then deteriorated as well, but great driving from everybody. It is, however, 3 out of 3 for Lewis Goff. The fastest lap of the race, just to confirm that two cars set identical fastest lap times in that race. 1 minute 54.925 was set by the number 26 car, which is the car of Jesse Phillips. Exactly the same time was set by the car that finished in third place as well, which is Melvin Kalustian. So you have to look back through the regulations to see as to whether those fastest lap points are shared between those drivers, or whether it's the driver that set it slightly earlier. But that is very unusual to see that in a race. So let's just confirm some results for you then. It is a win for Lewis Goff, his third of the weekend. Second is going to be Jesse Phillips, and third, locking out the podium, R-Racing, it's Melvin Kalustian. Harrison Mackie was there in fourth place with Jacob Ashcroft in fifth place, and it is going to be next up the number 18 car that finishes in sixth position, which is Riley Cranham. Harry Bartle was seventh in the end. Could have been better things for him, unfortunately, but it wasn't to be in that one. It's Sebastian Leist that was next up in 8th place. Noah Young was 9th. Bearing in mind he was a non-starter and came off the back of the grid. Brilliant result from him. And completing the top 10 was Henry Cameron. Then, as we move to 11th place, that is where we see the car of Kai Veach. Next up was Jon Helder, who finished in 12th place. Another car off the back of the grid, Devon Hagelin, made good progress, as did another car, which is Vladislav Tomanchek, who finished in 14th place. 15th place is going to be Andrew Robinson. 16th place sees the number 17 car of Max Murray come through. He had a couple of moments in the race. And also a disappointing finish, I would guess, for Daniel Oliver, who was only in 18th position. Bailey Doughty was 19th, and completing the top 20 was Pierce Wade. Then as we move outside of the top 20, Dominic Darling finally sees the checkered flag today. He's had a couple of disappointing results so far, and you can see the rest of the finishers from there. Just the one single retiree, as far as I can imagine, and that is Vicky Farfus, who brought about that safety car period. As we say, fastest lap shared in reality, 154.925, set by two cars on what I think was the first flying lap, if memory serves me correctly. Let's just look back at some of the highlights from our third and final race of the day here at Donington Park for the Ginetta Juniors. Lewis Goff started on pole position, and Harry Bartle was very slightly slower away on the outside of the front row of the grid, but it would be Lewis Goff that would pick up the early race lead from Harrison Mackie, who was going well in second place. On the first lap, though, down through the old hairpin, there was a big grassy moment for Josh Watts, who gathered it up and did rejoin the pack. Max Murray went off into the gravel trap whilst trying to gain places. He would recover, but he would drop way down through the order for one driver that had already had two top 8 finishes. Problems in tricky conditions down at the old hairpin. There was an off for Vicky Farfus, who ran wide, plopped the car into the gravel trap, and I'm afraid it could not be cleared. So that meant it had to be dragged out of harm's way. That also meant the safety car had to come out. As the safety car was out there, the conditions worsened. There was problems for Henry Carter, who took to the grass heading round through Goddard's, and everybody else was trying to deal with what were deteriorating conditions on the tricky Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. It was, however, Lewis Goff that coped with them best of all, and he would be hoping that he could cling on to the lead of the race. There was a big slidey moment for Josh Watts after his grassy moment down at the old hairpin. He gathered it up but lost a few places, and there was a great fight for the lead of the race in the closing stages. Lewis Goff really under pressure from his Art Racing teammate Jesse Phillips, who tried everything he could possibly do on the last lap. He drew alongside as they went in towards the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin. He took a wide sweep in to try and cut back and get extra momentum coming up the straight, and it didn't look as though he was going to get there. However, they got towards Goddard's on the brakes for the final time, and Jesse Phillips was looking to try and squeeze his way through and past. He looked to the outside, he then switched back to the inside and looked as though he got the job done, but Lewis Goff was quicker off the corner, and he's going to come over the start-finish line and claim his third victory of the weekend. Maximum points for him when it comes to racing. He'll be pleased with that. The drivers are down there. They're chatting away to Matt Suckling, who is our circuit commentator. But our drivers will be chatting to them next time we see them out, and that will be at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit. Just a couple of weeks' time, the 25th and the 26th of April, for rounds 4, 5 and 6 of the 2026 Ginetta Junior Championship, powered by Sunoco Race Fuels. So thanks for joining us at Donington Park. We'll see you next time out. Goodbye.